Good morning. This is Amarjot Singh. I'm in the beautiful city of Edmonton in Alberta. And as many people in US, I also follow US immigration updates. As you know, yesterday there was an executive order by the president putting a clampdown on H-1B for the rest of the year. What is the impact of H-1B on the regular folks, especially technical people who want to get a job and then get on to working lives in US and later on get a green card? I have invited a US immigration lawyer based in California and to get specialized comments on what this policy is and how does it impact. So I welcome lawyer Tina Ghomashchian from Los Angeles, California. Hello, Tina. How are you?
Hi there, Amarjot. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining. And I know you are busy, and you must be getting calls from a lot of people regarding
Yes,
the
yes.
H-1B. My first question to you is that when you read this executive order yesterday, what was your first reaction, and what was your first gut feeling about this policy change?
Well, firstly, the proclamation that came in yesterday by President Trump. The biggest thing to know is that it doesn't have as big an impact on people who are already inside the U.S. And I think that's the biggest thing that is important to note, because a lot of people who are here from overseas on student visas, on F1 OPT status, who have applied for an H-1B, they are still able to do a change of status. It does not affect them. If you currently have an H-1B already stamped in your passport, you are able to travel and come back, and it will not affect you. That's the most important thing. It really impacts people who are overseas outside the U.S. coming in.
Okay, what you said is also makes little relief for people who are like there are thousands and thousands of students who are in the STEM education course right now. If they have graduated or they're an OPT, and if they are looking to file for a new H-1B, will they be also affected? They will not be able to file a new H-1B, correct? You're talking about the existing H-1B holders only, people who already have H-1B.
No, they are actually able to apply for an H-1B if they're already inside the U.S. So the proclamation only applies to people who are applying for H-1Bs from outside the U.S. For example, people who have entered the current H-1B lottery and are waiting on their interview at the consulate for visa stamping, they will be affected. We expect the proclamation to be in until the end of the year. However, if you are inside the U.S. at the moment, studying as an OPT student, STEM student, just a general graduate student, you're still able to do a change of status to H-1B if you applied in this year's lottery. It will not impact you. And also, it's important to note for the spouses, I've had a lot of people asking me, what about my wife who's on H-4 status or applying for H-4 status? H-4 is for someone who is the spouse of an H-1B holder and wishes to work in the U.S. It's important to note that they are not affected, providing they're already in the U.S. They can do a change of status to H-4. The problem comes when they are not inside the U.S., perhaps they are overseas and they are still waiting on visa stamping. It will affect them if they're outside the proclamation. They're not exempt from the proclamation. They will be subject to it.
Correct. Now, as I understand that it's not only technical professionals who are the major bulk of H-1B. You have doctors, nurses, maybe professors, researchers, and I guess even fashion models. I remember that I think the president's wife is also a fashion model, and she got a H-1B and she progressed through that category. So what about these people? And currently because of coronavirus, they need a lot of healthcare people, frontline health workers, and many of them are H-1B. What about those? Is there any exemption for coronavirus professionals, or is this blanket H-1B everybody?
Well, there has been discussion of an order that might come in to help people who are nurses or even doctors who are foreign educated, to allow them to come in to work in the U.S. However, nothing has been passed. There's no legislation passed as yet. Currently, most H-1Bs are really used mostly by the big tech companies, Yahoo, Google, a lot of your big tech companies. But we also have clients who are dentists and doctors, like you said, that are experienced, educated individuals in other professions that are hit hard by this. Again, if you are in the US and you are on an H-1B, you are exempt from the proclamation. So if you are worried about what happens if I need an extension, you're exempt. You can get an H-1B extension, you can transfer, you can do an H-1B transfer to a new company. The proclamation doesn't apply to you. It only applies for those who are new to the H-1B and again that are overseas that would need their visa stamped. It's also important that I feel it's important to note that if you are exempt from the proclamation, if you already have an H-1B stamped or an H-4 stamped on your passport, although you are exempt from the proclamation, you may be subject to other travel bans. That means that, for example, if you are from the UK or a country in Europe and you're an H-4 and you already have it in your passport, you've already had it stamped, therefore you're exempt from the proclamation. However, if you travel out and try to come back to the US, you will not be allowed in due to the European travel ban, which was put in place due to COVID-19.
Okay, that definitely puts a bind. This is not the time to travel. No matter
Definitely
whether
not.
the airlines run or not, this is not the time to take
Not the time.
not the time to
Okay.
take the summer vacation that you've been dreaming of.
Nope.
What about what I was reading the executive order, and I think this was made under the blanket of coronavirus and unemployment. Close to about 15 to 20% of the American youth are without jobs. So supposedly this was made to make those jobs available to Americans, and the number was quoted to be close to about more than 500,000 jobs would be freed up, otherwise would have been taken by H-1B. Do you agree that this will make jobs, of course it will make jobs available, but Americans, are they ready, available, qualified, skill? They are there to fill these jobs, because these jobs are, to starting with, they are high-tech jobs or something that they could not find the talent. That's why they did a labor certification. And so do we have enough people to fill these jobs?
I mean, what's coming out from the government is that there are people here that can fill those jobs. However, I happen to disagree with that. I do believe that H-1B holders, majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of them are highly skilled workers, people that are difficult to find in the US. They're able and ready to work with this experience. And that's why a lot of companies like Yahoo and Google are using them. I mean, that is why we have wage levels in place for an H-1B, to ensure that they would be getting the same wage as an American. And it's not, for example, that they're getting paid less to do the same job. They're getting paid the same. So if they could hire an American, why wouldn't they? And go through, I don't think any employer by choice would go through the whole immigration process and dealing with USCIS and submitting all this paperwork unless they really had to. So I don't believe H-1B holders are taking US jobs, no.
Sure. Does it also, I didn't read about it, maybe you have, does it also affect the green card processes under the E category, EB5, EB1, EB2? Does it, what about the green card applications of E category? Is this also affected?
EB. A lot of people that are on H-1B do transition to EB2s, which is an employment-based 2. That's if you have a master's or higher. And then we have EB3, employment-based third preference category for more unskilled. If you don't have a master's, perhaps you have work experience or a bachelor's degree. It does not affect those visas that are being processed inside the US. So if you are an H-1B holder, and I have many clients who are currently on H-1B status who are applying for their green card inside the US, that will not affect you. The proclamation you're exempt from it. Everything will still process. However, it will impact individuals applying for employment-based green cards that are overseas. They will not be able to obtain their immigrant visa interviews. That it will impact you. And it has also been extended. The previous proclamation that was put in place at the beginning of coronavirus for people who are spouses of lawful permanent residents in the US and wanting their green card interviewed, it affects them also. So it also impacts spouses who are overseas.
Yeah. Seems like the overriding sentiment of this policy is to let people who are outside stay out. People who are inside stay intact for now till at least the election is over, and then we will review this next year, maybe in 2021, if something else is happening. What about So for the past a day or two, I think you must be fielding calls from people who are excited, not excited, I mean agitated about, how will it affect them and H1B. Last time I was in California, I know the Bay Area and the tech population. I think many people, if they are frustrated, if they are nervous about their options, they like to go somewhere else. Maybe use Canada as a backup option as a PR. So how is the sentiment in the Silicon Valley?
In the Silicon Valley, there are the majority of individuals that are on visas there are in H-1B status. And if they can't get an H-1B, obviously they may turn to other countries, perhaps look for immigration there. I know that Canada is quite a popular solution for people. The immigration process there is based more on a points-based system.
Yeah,
It's a lot more straightforward than immigration in the US, which has only gotten more complicated
yeah,
in recent times, in recent years. And I also think it's important to express that this proclamation, again, also applies to J visa holders, people that are on internships, traineeships, L1 visas, people that are doing intergovernment transfers. If you have a company, for example, in Canada, and you have to want one in America to transfer employees, it will also impact them. Um, it will impact many of those visas. However, in saying that, individuals that again that are here could do a change of status. And so I've had a lot of clients ask me, well, my wife wanted an H4. I'm an H1B visa holder. My wife wanted an H4. Can she get visa stamping? No. However, at the end of the day, they're not including B2s, which would be tourist visas. So whether your spouse could come on a B2 as a visitor, and then perhaps later on do a change of status, that could be an option. But you do have to be careful because they may see that as a material misrepresentation.
sure.
Yeah, so you have to be careful with the timing. But that is an alternative to do a change of status.
Yeah. Recently, also last week, so I think the U.S. Supreme Court made a landmark ruling to let the DACA continue, and these dreamers, close to about 800,000 or less than about close to 1 million, they must have taken a sigh of relief. What about those DACA people? They don't have still a clear path to green cards even as of now.
No, they don't. However, one positive thing that came out of the court ruling is that I mean, although Trump will attack again, and so it's not going to last for very long, is that people who previously didn't apply for DACA prior to this court's ruling could not apply anymore. So you could only get DACA if you had already applied for it. You could renew it.
Yeah.
However, now after the court's ruling, if you haven't applied for before, you can now apply. I am waiting to see something on the USCIS website. They've not posted anything yet, which they actually are supposed to do by law, to allow people to apply that have not previously applied before. So if people haven't applied, I'd highly advise for them to apply as soon as possible and get their applications in.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the place where you are in Southern California, the Los Angeles County. Uh, I think you are in the right in the thick and thin of the sea of people who are possibly undocumented. They have crossover from Tijuana or maybe overstayed or something. How do you deal with people who are undocumented aliens? One of the things which I know you may find it funny, uh, the word alien is quite alien to U.S. only. Anybody who is not a citizen is an alien according to U.S. Immigration Nationality Act. And sometimes I think this is the word that they don't use in any country. In Canada, we don't call people alien; we call it foreign national. In I know in Europe also they don't call anybody alien, but US is quite unique to call anybody alien. What is your alien number? What is your alien
Yes.
file A number? The A number, whatever number that is. So you may have a lot of undocumented aliens in California. How do you help them, and can they be helped?
Yes, well, actually, now that you mentioned that, a lot of people who are undocumented, there are solutions for them. And many times they're not aware of the fact that if, for example, they get married, they may now be exempt from the fact that they have overstayed. There's a waiver to go with that called an I-601A waiver, which
Yeah.
means that if you have been undocumented and you end up falling in love and getting married here, um, you can apply for a waiver for the fact that you did overstay. providing you meet certain requirements. So it's a case by case basis to determine if each person meets the requirements to get a waiver.
If they do get successful in getting that waiver, do they still have to leave US and go to that country, or it can be done within US?
They actually have to leave and come back. So if the I-130, which is the marriage petition, is approved, and then the waiver is approved, once the waiver is approved, they then travel back to their home country to go to the embassy to get their green card and come back. Yes.
And that is a little dampener, because a person who has been in US for number of years, let's say 5 years, 10 years, and suddenly, even though they have a I-130 application pending, if they have been instructed to leave the country and then apply from the US embassy there, I think that will raise a lot of red flags, and they were nervous. What happens if not? And then they are stuck outside while the spouse is here. This is one of the great contrasts with the Canadian immigration system. I've had some cases here, which is called spouse, sponsorship, just like 130, where a person was, illegal. We call it illegal, means they came without inspection, and lived here, without an immigration status for many years. Suddenly fall in love with a Canadian wife, and then they sponsor. They do not have to leave Canada. Everything can be done within the Canadian system itself, like while they are here. Yeah. And in fact, if I may be too, not overzealous in saying that the Canadian system actually prefers that the process is finalized within Canada. They do not have to leave. And they are also willing to give you a, so let us say they file a spousal application within Canada, and as soon as the application is filled, with the application itself, you can file an application for EAD, just like the work permit, and within about as soon as close to 4 months, you will get a work permit, and then you can work while your application for spousal, just like I-130, is pending. And the whole process, and they forecast. Should be there's a government target that should be done within 12 months. So we do this all the time here. I remember a case many years ago where somebody came from a different country, and then from that Latin America country came to US, and then eventually ended up in Canada. And they had already lined up a potential marriage with the fiance in Canada, and he had, forget about legal status, he did not even have a passport. So imagine no immigration status, crossed without inspection from US to Canada, no passport. Fortunately, he had some ID to prove that who he was, and that's all it matters. When the file was finalized at the end, it took double the amount of time, because they could not find out, they could not do a background or police verification check. So they had to contact the embassy of the country to actually get to find out who really is, and then relent in getting a passport. So now he must be a citizen now, actually, because once we get a PR card, which is your green card, if you're there here for close 4 years now, you can get a Canadian citizenship and a Canadian passport. Once you have a passport, typically you can go anywhere, including US visa free. So this is one. Most of the last time I toured California, most of the undocumented aliens who are on some kind of EAD or social security number, whether they came through amnesty or came through special agriculture scheme in 1981, 82 amnesty, even that long, if they have had some kind of legal status in the US for at least 1 year, that's all. That's the benchmark, at least 1 year. Some people have even 5 years, 6 years. So it does not matter what happened if they have asylum pending. So they have a social security number, they have a EAD. So that means, so now their legal status in the US is established at least for 1 year. And if they are, if they are possibly, running their own business, maybe running a gas station or just pretty much anything, maybe like a transportation trucking company, something. If they are self-employed and like an entrepreneur, so they can use their skill and their experience and money, just not a huge amount of money, enough money that they can maybe replicate the business model in Canada, and they will qualify for PR with the whole family. So this is a very exciting news for people who have no hope of getting green card in US, but they can do this in Canada and achieve that immigration goal in Canada at the least. So they are
Exactly.
always eligible. Let me
Well,
just give you one more example about skilled people. Let's say anybody who came on H1B, H2B, or L1, or even J1, or maybe on a F1 visa, and if they have had some experience in the past 10 years, whether they are in a different country or in the US, if they've had, let's say, about 2 to 3 years of professional experience, they have a master's degree, and they have good English, like reasonable English, they can, on the point-based system, they can apply directly for Canada.
That's very
It's,
positive to hear, because I actually have a lot of Iranian clients from Iran who were interested in coming to the US and now are subject to the travel ban. And
yeah,
it's very difficult, costs a lot of money to try and come here from Iran, and being subject to a travel ban, I often say to them, go to Canada. And I've had many clients that have gone to Canada instead of immigrating to America and have been very, very successful with that process. Because, as you say, it's more straightforward, it's faster, they're not subject to any travel bans, and therefore they have greater success in choosing the Canadian option in preference to the US.
that's a good example that you took about Iran. There are some countries, and I'm just a observer. I have no comments on why and how, but some countries will find it difficult, to get a U.S. entry, no matter whether it's study visa, H-1 visa, like Iran. How about like what is this? Afghanistan. Uh, you know, I think some countries, because of the U.S. Relationship with them, their national will find it great difficulty, if not insurmountable difficulty in getting the visa. But they will very easily and clearly and without those hindrances qualify for, for Canada. Yes, Cuba is my number third on the list. Like Cuban nationals, can you imagine? Can you imagine a Cuban national from Havana trying to get a study visa and to come to study in he's not going to get the study visa. Uh, you know, people in Iran is not likely to get a study visa to go and study American politics in Washington D.C. They're not going to get the visa.
Yeah.
But on the contrary, if they are reasonably funded, if the English is good, they will most likely be successful in getting to Canada. Canada is attracting officially and legally. Their target is 1 million immigrants every 3 years. So close to about 330,000 green cards or PR cards every year based on the point system. So we need this because our population, the entire population of Canada is less than the population of California. So we
Yeah.
need people. We need people to populate our vast lands, and our healthcare is socialized, so everybody is covered. So we don't have to pay those expensive premiums. But the thing about what I don't understand about the U.S. immigration policy is that on one hand they need highly professional people to come in and to work in their companies and to fund that tech innovation. On other hand, they also aspire that these jobs should be filled by Americans first, but they don't have the talent to fill them up. So how can they converge those different priorities and see this should work out for the economy? What about those what about the US companies and corporate? I mean, what is their view about all this, like Google, Microsoft, Amazon? What is their viewpoint on in how to fill these jobs?
Well, there have been a lot of backlash from Google and Yahoo since this proclamation came in yesterday, and even prior to this, when there was a change in the H-1B process itself, there was a lot of backlash from Amazon and Google and a lot of these big companies that hire tech from all over the world, as you say, that are highly skilled professionals. And in addition to that, there have also been figures pulled from the Department of Commerce, which have shown a significant decrease in the amount of people investing in the US. There used to be the EB-5, there still is the EB-5, but it now requires a lot more than it previously did. It requires 1.8 million in preference to 1 million. So I do believe the restrictions that are being put on immigration are making it more difficult for skilled professionals, for investors to come here. However, we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. And so I do tell people apply, at least apply if you're here and you want to sponsor your spouse, or you do have the hopes of investing in America. Maybe within the next 2-3 years, things do change. As it changes with each government, different policies come in. So at least apply, get your application in now. It takes at least 2 years for a lot of these applications, especially marriage-based or even employment-based green cards, to process. And who knows where we'll be in 2-3 years from now? It might be a much easier process to get things stamped.
Yeah, yeah. Do you also help Canadians who want to come to US to start a business? What options do you have for them?
I do. I have a lot of clients from Canada that have come on the E2 visa. The
Yeah.
E2 is the Treaty of Investment visa. There is no amount stated by law of how much it should be. However, the US consulates around the world have generally interpreted this to be around $100,000. I have had E2s approved for less than that. I did have an E2 approved for $70,000. Again, it depends on the type of business that you're opening and also the state you're opening it in. So, for example, someone from Canada opening up a business in California may require more investment than someone opening something up in Texas, which requires less because it's tax-free and it's cheaper to invest there. But the E2 is an option for a lot of Canadians, and so is the TN visa. That's a very popular option for Canadians. They can either have 5 years work experience or a bachelor's degree and get a job offer here and come over on a TN.
Yeah. Tell me about E2 visa, the E2 treaty investor visa, which I am seeing on the screen. Does it lead to green card or not? Or is just a temporary classification to continue your business till few years and that's it? And then you have to fold up and return to your country. Does it lead to any green card?
Well, the E2 itself is granted for an indefinite period of time, meaning that you can renew it every 2 years. There's no restrictions on how often you can renew it. So you can, I've had clients on it for 5 to 10 years, sometimes even longer, and they just keep renewing it every 2 years. However, once you're on the E2, there are other options in the sense that if you are an E2 holder and you have your spouse here who's dependent on your E2, that spouse is allowed to work. They're given a work authorization permit and they can actually be sponsored for a green card through their company. So I've had many clients that are on an E2, their spouse gets a work permit and then gets sponsored for a green card through that company, and therefore the E2 visa holder then becomes a green card holder.
I'm also sharing with you NAFTA professionals. As many people will agree, NAFTA is one of those special deals between two giant neighbors, US and Canada. They allow people to work in their respective the other country without even having to go through H-1B and those things. So do you help people in NAFTA?
I've helped a lot of people, both from Mexico and Canada, for TN visas. Providing they have a job offer in the US and the salary is at least what we call prevailing wage, which would mean that it's close to what you would pay an American for the same job in the same role in the same state, and they are qualified for that job, they are eligible to come. Often when you read the requirements, it says that you have to have a bachelor's degree. This isn't entirely true. In fact, if you have 5 years experience, and they've had over 5 years experience, they're actually eligible for a TN visa.
Yeah, yeah. More than TN visa and the E2. What about EB5? Do you do EB5 as well?
I do EB5s. EB5s have changed a lot in recent years. It used to be $500,000 to $1 million of investment. It takes around 5 to 7 years for the entire process to go through to obtain a green card. But that was a very successful way of many investors from India, China, UK to come and get a green card. It has increased now to 1.8 million. It's a little bit more investment. And they are required to hire 10 US workers. It's a bit of it's a longer process than the EB2 and EB3, but you can self-sponsor yourself for the green card, so it makes it a bit easier in that aspect.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much for your comprehensive information on what is happening in the U.S. For now. We hope that I think this resolution will possibly self-vacate starting December, or we don't know what will happen. We don't know who's the next U.S. president is, or maybe it will be drastically, it will be put into place, maybe more hardline approach. But for sure, I think Trump came on a U.S. first policy, and he ran on a hardline position on immigration. So he is delivering what he promised. So I think as an American, I mean, as a person who's following those his policies, you are not surprised that he is fulfilling what he promised.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think with every decision that's made with immigration, there's a lot of politics that we'll never know that are behind the decision. I mean, I do know that the country is suffering a loss, especially financially. There are figures pulled from the Department of Commerce which show that there has been a substantial financial hit to the U.S. for people that used to invest via the EB-5 and E-2s, since it's been made more difficult. So I do think that financially the U.S. will suffer, and also the U.S. is one of the best countries in the world because of its immigration, because of the multicultural ethnicities that you have here. I mean, you're in California and you can experience so much culture, and that's what makes America the American dream. Is coming from another country, having very little, and then achieving your dream of whatever you dream to do or be. And so hopefully we keep that.
Yeah, yeah. You have little background in England also. How do you compare England as a place where immigrants like to live as compared to US? Many people like to go to live in England also. So how do you compare the scene in England as to US?
It's a very different immigration system, a very different scene, as you say, in the UK. Things in the UK are a bit more structured. Being more of a socialist aspect to the country, a lot of people that do immigrate there are supported more. They get financial benefits, they get help with housing, they eventually have access to the National Health Service like you have in Canada. In the US, you don't obtain those benefits. However, the US does present, in some ways, from my experience, more opportunity. There's not as many restrictions when doing things. You can grow and invest, and you do have the American dream. If you can dream it, you can do it, which is what America's so well known and attractive because of that aspect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, all right. Well, on that confidence note on US as a place where people like to go, I thank you very much for your time, and I will be in touch with you if you have further development. I know I can bank upon your expert comments on how to interpret U.S. policies.
Thanks.
And in the future, if somebody in Canada or elsewhere, if they want to contact you, you would like to, state your full contact phone number. You can announce it now, and then they can contact you directly, and possibly your website.
Thank you. My full name is Tina Ghomashchian, and my contact number is 818-949-2662. And the website is www.visatoamerica.com.
And I will, nothing to worry about if you did not catch it in one breath. I will type this at the bottom of the video so that people can follow it from there. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Tina. Take care.
You
Goodbye.
too. Bye-bye.